Yeah, he's a director. He did all the hard work, but creatively, Stallone had the final say. I'm being honest. I'm very aware of Stallone's style, which I've seen in the original Expendables, in Rocky IV, and so forth and so forth and so forth. You see it in Rambo Last Blood.
What's your favorite scary movie? Swallow this.
Okay, another episode of the Air on the Head show. Mr. Lance, Mr. John.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy? Good to see you back again for our first episode of October. Obviously, we're going to be switching up today. But before we jump into our October surprise, I was going to say that we have a telephone number, which is going to be displayed on the screen below. And of course, as always, if you look at the time code on the bottom of this video, when you hit play, you'll see the review and you'll see the section of phone calls. So feel free to check those out at the end of the video. So before we dive into that, John and I are going to be starting our spooky season with the scariest movie of all, Rambo Last Blood. Okay, John. So I guess let's jump in because we've never talked about this movie before right now. I think I know how you feel, but, what do I know in this crazy, crazy world? So, John.
You know nothing. Other than the fact that Bad Religion's a great fucking band. Other than that, you know nothing.
No Control is a masterpiece. Absolutely.
Yeah, brother. True that. Rambo Last Blood, before we dive in the name of full disclosure, I'm probably the biggest Rambo fan you ever met. I mean, yeah. Got my First Blood t-shirt, even though it went transparent because Zoom's fucked up. Rambo 2, Rambo First Blood Part 2 is probably that one movie everybody says, oh, if you're going to go on a deserted island, you only had one movie. Which one? For me, that would be Rambo First Blood Part 2. It's a movie that just I've seen a zillion times and it never ceases to entertain me. I'm a huge fan of First Blood, Rambo 2, Rambo 3, not so much. Love Rambo 4. And it was supposed to end, as you guys may know, at Rambo 4, which was kind of like a perfect ending where John Rambo, after all the shit he's gone through, he goes home. All the best love and kisses. But money talks. And Rambo 5, Rambo Last Blood, now as it is known, came about. I don't know if you know a lot about the backstory on Rambo 5. Do you?
I mean, I was following the story, so I know what it was going to be before it became this story, which was going to be the Beast. Well, yeah. The Beast one was like the closest one that I remember being, because that was actually going to happen for a long time, and then it didn't. That was the one I remember. So if there's more of that, you might have to,
There were three stories that came up. We had the Beast story, which is like a Predator ripoff, where Rambo. I think it was based on a novel they were going to repurpose into a Rambo film, where Rambo hooked up with a bunch of soldiers to hunt a genetically engineered human being. So that was one that went tits up. Then there was Rambo, like Rambo 5, as it got released, is called Rambo Last Blood. They had Rambo Last Stand. And Rambo Last Stand, I actually auditioned for it.
Oh, okay. It was going
to be shot in Louisiana. And I think it was going to be a very similar storyline from what I know. Very similar to the one we have now, but instead of cartels, it was going to be white supremacists. So when I heard that Rambo Last Stand was going to shoot in Louisiana, where I shot my first film, The Shelter, and they had to do with Rambo going against white supremacists, and I'm white, shaved head, tats, I got to throw my name in the fucking hat. So then they changed the tune again. So it was no longer going to be shot in Louisiana, no longer about white supremacists. Now it was going to go back to the cartel idea. Was one of the first ideas they had for Rambo 5, and they went back to it. So you guys missed out on me, getting whacked by Rambo. But there you have it. The whole run up until like D-Day, Stallone was going to direct, because he directed Rambo 4 and he did, let's face it, a fantastic job.
Yes.
with Rambo 4.
Yes.
And he was going to direct. But instead, they went with Adrian Grunberg, which is funny, not funny, haha. Funny is that Adrian Grunberg was also the guy that directed Get the Gringo with Mel Gibson.
Yeah, except you could tell Mel Gibson directed that movie, or at least Mel Gibson.
Exactamundo.
Yes.
Exact. That's where I'm going with it.
This guy directed the was it the Black Demon, that new one?
Did he? I don't know.
Yeah, look into that one. But I agree with you. Just not to interrupt, but I saw that he was the director of that, and I was like, well, that was clearly in name only, or for tax credits, or for some sort of back end deal.
No, I call it heavy lifting directing. You see, Stallone always wanted to direct Rambo 5. It was always in the cards for him to direct Rambo 5, like he did 4. But then at the last minute, Adrian Grunberg came on and directed. So I'm assuming here, guys and dolls, Stallone, word on the street, Stallone truly directed Rambo 2. And George P. Cosmatos was a puppet director. So basically, he did the heavy lifting and, getting things set up or whatever. But in terms of creative, Stallone had the final say. And then copy paste that to Cobra. Same shit. George P. Cosmatos. Yeah, he's a director. He did all the hard work, but creatively, Stallone had the final say. So from what I heard, the same shit applied to Rambo Last Blood, which also applied to Get the Gringo, where Grunberg directed, did the heavy lifting, but on Get the Gringo, Mel Gibson had the final say. And you watch Get the Gringo, anybody knows anything about Mel Gibson, you watch the movie and you see his eye. And Rambo Last Blood is the same fucking shit. Anybody that knows Stallone's visual style like I do, not like I'm sucking my own cock here, but I'm being honest. I'm very aware of Stallone's style, which I've seen in the original Expendables, in Rocky IV, and so forth and so forth and so forth. You see it in Rambo Last Blood.
So let me ask you this before we actually truly jump in, John. I don't like asking this, but I need you to rank the 5 Rambo movies for me.
It's a tough one because between First Blood and Rambo 2, because First Blood's the better movie, but Rambo 2 is the most entertaining.
Yeah.
So which one is better? So I have a hard time with that decision. But let's say we go First Blood, Rambo 2, Rambo 4, Rambo 5, Rambo 3. I think that's a safe thing. But I could switch First Blood and Rambo 2 very easily. Rambo 4 on paper is a better movie than Rambo 5. I watched it again, Rambo 5 yesterday, Last Blood. The extended cut, which basically means the real cut, because there's no extended cut. Basically what happened was they were tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking until the day of release. They were the whole time.
Yeah, they're editing like 2 weeks before.
Having test screenings, all that shit, whatever. But then Lionsgate's at the last second, so meaning like a week before release, for the North American release, not the rest of the world, they got really cockshy and they felt like it takes too long for the action to start. Obviously, they hadn't seen First Blood, which takes also long for the action to start. And they decided to cut out the entire prologue and cut out a lot of the character development moments from it, and then released it. So I think, if I remember correctly, Rambo Last Blood in North America was about 85, 90 minutes, but Rambo Last Blood in the rest of the world was over 100 minutes. And really, Lionsgate's fucked up, in my useless opinion. They did the movie a disservice, because when I saw it on the big screen, and we like, for me, Rambo's huge in my family, bro. My dad introduced me to First Blood. And then my ex-girlfriend, who had children, I introduced them to Rambo. So when Rambo Last Blood came out in the theaters, I went with my dad and my ex-girlfriend's kid, and we had a man's night out. And then it unraveled, and I was like, very disappointing. I was very disappointed about the movie. But then as time went on, eventually the extended cut, basically the final cut, which was not given to North America, got released on Amazon, and I gave the movie another shot. And I was like, Oh, funny how a good little 15-minute can change the whole fucking thing. And now I'm a huge fan, extended cut only, of Rambo Last Blood.
So what did the extended cut give you that made you change your mind?
First I gave the prologue with Rambo saving, trying to save people in a flood. I think people die, but he saves abroad. And then there's more emphasis on his PTSD, how he's feeling and everything like that. So theatrical cut versus the original cut, extended cut, the real cut, is that the real cut takes the time to build. The theatrical cut North America via Lionsgate just rushes through everything. So there's no weight, there's no momentum, there's no stakes really, But the real cut shows me a John Rambo who's hurting, who's still stuck in the past. I mean, the tunnels that he builds in the film are basically tunnels from Viet Cong. The traps that he says, like in the last act, for example, are all traps that were common during the Vietnam War, but from the Viet Cong. But at least the journey to get there felt humane, felt layered, felt realistic. Like Rambo 4 has a lot of fucking action and mayhem and shit like that. Rambo 5 is a bit more introspective. It's a bit more contained and introspective. And by removing layers from your lead character in terms of where he's at, how he's feeling, when the shit hits the fan, it doesn't hit as hard because you're not on board with him.
Your journey with John Rambo, okay. So you get this story for you, like you love it. You love where it takes you. Is this your ending? Because what if what if Stallone comes out tomorrow and says, we're making another Rambo? What is your thoughts?
Personally, for me, Rambo ended at 4.
So this is your epilogue then?
That's I call it the bonus. When he goes back home at the end of 4, the mailbox, he's wearing the green military, jacket that he wore in First Blood. His hair's a little too poofed up for my liking, but, still looks pretty fucking good. And he walks back and, it's kind of like a wide shot. And you have Brian Tyler, who's doing his best. Jerry Goldsmith. Na, 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 na. And he walks, and it's a static shot. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. But then when Rambo Last Blood came out, I just saw it as a bonus. And it's kind of like an extra on DVD, yeah? And taking a man that's been through so much and he's finally in a place of quote unquote peace, and then you're going to remove that from him and unleash him. And I mean, look, we've seen this formula before. We've seen Taken, we've seen, these kind of movies or whatever. But I really felt that Rambo Last Blood extended cut, it made me feel a lot. I actually cried like a man bitch, dude. I mean, we're going to go into spoilers here, but when he finally saves, his niece, right?
I mean, I think it's quotes, but yes, Gabrielle. I believe Gabriella.
And they're in the truck. And, she's talking, he's talking about her. She was good with horses and everything. And then she dies in the truck with Brian Tyler's evocative, powerful score. I broke down like a bitch that was out of bitches to break down. So Stallone's performance in that moment, the music in that moment, obviously the thematics in the moment, what's happening, all of it put together, fucking fucked me up, dude. It fucked me up. I felt so sad, man.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. All right. Do you think that this direction was better than like the Nazis then? Would you have preferred take yourself out of it? Because essentially it's the same movie. We're just switching out the bad guys. Do you think there's more weight to the cartel, or would you find there to be, if they switched
white supremacists, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just using a blanket term.
No, I'm happy they did the car. I mean, it's very funny because I'm sure you're aware there's a movie called Sound of Freedom that came out.
Yeah, it's with Cavill,
who's playing like a real life dude. And, I like to say that to people, Rambo Last Blood came first.
I haven't seen it. So it's similar, like he's going into like the cartels are taking people.
Thematics wise, it's the same thing. It's a sex trade. In the old days, you had Korea, you had Vietnam, then you had Iraq, Kuwait, whatever the fuck, right? What do we have today? Are we at war anywhere? United States of America. Where are we at war? It's the war at home. That's what I like about, Rambo, had the war at home in First Blood with returning vets being treated like shit. And then Rambo 2, he went back to Vietnam and made the war in Vietnam right. And then in Rambo 3, he went to Afghanistan, sided with the people that, put planes and buildings in New York on 9/11. But, to his own defense, he didn't know it was going to go that way at the time. But at that time, Russians were,
No, yeah. I mean, it makes sense actually at the time. It hasn't aged well. But no, you can't blame the movie for
exactly.
It was history at the time. Yes, we were fighting against Russians.
Rambo 4, and God bless Stallone for that one, because, for me personally, as a guy who likes to stay aware of what's going on, in the news and the world and whatnot. He focused on Burmese, right?
Burma, but it's
Burma,
I think, but it's Myanmar now. But Burma is the same. Yeah, it's just different name.
Well, basically, Stallone focused on a very little known conflict in the world in terms of North America. Anyways, I didn't know about this shit, and I'm pretty sure neither did you until Rambo 4 came out, right? Okay, God bless him. So he brought light to that. And Rambo 4 is a fucking excellent picture. Oscar film meets canon film is a beautiful marriage of two polar opposite type of film, but it fucking worked. But then in Rambo 5, what did he do? The war at home. Sex trade. Of course, Mexico, blah, 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 blah. But, sex trade happens outside of Mexico. It happens in Eastern Europe. It happens, everywhere. People that are trafficked from the United States are not just trafficked in Mexico. They're trafficked everywhere around the world. But he chose an intimate war. And I thought that was a stroke of genius, because I don't think people give the Rambo franchise enough credit, because for me personally, as an individual, it has brought awareness about things I did not know, especially in terms of Rambo 4 and now Rambo 5. But what Sound of Freedom did is bring exposure to the sex trade and child trafficking. Rambo Last Blood did a couple of years before, and did it in a way that by the time the film ends, you feel way better about yourself, because he fucks those motherfuckers up, bro, as they should be. You know what I'm saying?
The ending is it's like Kevin McAllister on acid.
Yeah, the Home Alone analogy. I never really. I understand the analogy, but
it's the famous movie for setting up a bunch of traps for fucking people coming over.
No, so look. In short, is the approach to the post-traumatic stress disorder in the extended cut, aka the real cut, is very realistic, very grounded, very affecting. And then obviously the story throws a curveball. And his reaction to it, I thought, was very grounded and very realistic. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you've seen First Blood, you've seen Rambo 2, Rambo 3. Do you want to fucking fuck with John Rambo's family? You do not. You do not want to fuck with John Rambo's family. So when they do, and then he's unleashed, and, this will go into my negatives, but at least 60%, I was very fulfilled in terms of what he did. I would have pushed it further, but that's, like I said, I'll focus on the negatives. But so I think Rambo Last Blood did a really beautiful job at being an exploitation film, but also being a character piece that is credible, that is grounded, and that makes you feel.
So then extended cut wise, what are your negatives then? Because obviously if the extended cut is building this up more for you, then what about it isn't working?
My negatives are the same I had in the theatrical cut. I mean, this is John Rambo. If you've seen Rambo 2, for example, where he takes Vietnam on his own, Rambo 3 to some degree, Rambo 4, I expected more damage. I expected more kills. Like when Rambo goes to Mexico, then he gets ambushed, he gets his ass fucking kicked.
Which is, I'm going to say this. That was very un-John Rambo to just kind of stroll up. I was like, That guy's too smart for that.
He gets his ass fucking whipped, and then this broad, nurses him back to health. He wakes the fuck up. The John Rambo I know is capable of way more slaughter, even when he goes to save Gabrielle. He shows up with a hammer, start whipping people, hitting people, all this stuff. Finally, find Gabrielle, takes her out, and everything. That whole which reminded me of Old Boy, by the way. Maybe because it's a hammer and.
Oh, and he goes. That's the fun part. At least that's a very. But
it could have been. It could have been more. This is Rambo. Rambo.
I felt a lot of times this was almost like a Stallone revenge flick. There was a lot of moments where some of the dialogue even didn't sound like Rambo. Like this is even his syncopation sounded different in this movie. He sounded a lot more like Stallone, where when I just watched recently, number 4, his verbiage was like, unless he's like,
dude, one of my favorite bits in the movie, his discussion with the woman that saved him, who, herself had a sister, I think, if I remember correctly, get stuck in that shit and she died. And Stallone says to her, he says,
I want them to know that death is coming.
And that there is nothing they can do about it. That's pure Rambo. I was like, fuck yeah.
I'll give you that part. Yeah, I'll give you that part. But then again, I want to then go back to when he's interviewing the Cholo and he just grabs her arm and he's like, take me to her. It's like, no, take her arm off, please. She sold your daughter or granddaughter into slavery or into sex slavery. You're being really fucking nice to her. He was just like, where did you get this? It's like, no, take something away. Break both of her arms because you killed him. You fucking were good about the guy in the truck. Her, he's like, get out of here. It's like, no. She's a part of it. Now we're being nice. So not that I want to advocate for everybody to get hurt, but in a revenge flick, once the line is crossed where we now need to start, I would say, fixing the broken problems. He was way too cool with her. He was way too nice and way too friendly. I don't care if she's a girl.
Right?
Yes, the Cholo, which I should bring up. I don't know much about gang culture. I should be very clear about that. I thought that look and accent and attitude was from the late 80s, early 90s, because it's a lot of movies that I grew up with. Seeing it this late in culture, I find funny. If it's still around, that's awesome, but it can't be as threatening.
I hate that character so bad. And, and the best that Rambo did was slam the knife into the table when he's having a tete-a-tete.
Should have been her hand.
I hated her even more than the dad. Dude, the dad blew my mind last night when I watched the movie. When Gabrielle goes to visit her dad, and he answers like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, oh, you're my dad, whatever. And then, he kind of shuts the door, kind of like isolates whoever fucks in the house, I guess his new wife and kids or whatever. He says something along the lines of, then your mom died and I was stuck with you and I wanted nothing to do with you. And the coldness of the character. So when Rambo eventually pays him a visit, I was expecting him being much like Giselle, which I was hoping, being thrown out the fucking window. But he was not.
No, he was actually very polite to him. And that was the guy he had to pull off beating another woman that he knew in his life. Yeah. So he was usually like, hey, be cool.
Rambo's a little too soft in these moments. Like Giselle should be thrown out the window. The fucking dad, dude, and God bless that actor. I don't know what the fuck this guy's name is, but he evoked the right emotions out of me when he showed up. And at first he was really nice. I'm like, okay. He's seeing his daughter. It's all good. And then when he switches, I was like, dude. And then Rambo comes back and kind of like abuses him a little bit, but not nearly enough. So that's, part of my complaints that Rambo went a little too soft on people that needed, major beatdown.
I wouldn't disagree. I think that those are two great examples of the character not being Rambo. Like I said, dude, there are a lot of parts of this movies where I felt Stallone showed Stallone over Rambo. They needed Kurt Russell to come and take out half his dialogue with a pen. Be like, dude, stop talking so much. Just do a lot of that'll do, pig.
How about we give some love to the two lead bad guys? So you got the guy, the better looking guy with the shortish hair, and you have the
I mean, wasn't Mickey Rourke supposed to play one of them? That would be better. I'll be honest, I didn't like the bad guys because
what? I love them. The guy with long hair, like I guess the second in command, the guy that winds up with his fucking cut off. That
and
Rambo
I
throws
like
out
that
the fucking window. Remember that? Awesome,
that's a good part. I will give you that part. Yes, when it comes in, his pictures or his license is stabbed in his heart and his head is gone. That's cool. That's the stuff I was like, okay, I want more of this, less I don't know, horseback riding.
So I guess, in a cockshell, my peeves with Rambo Last Blood are that Rambo should have gone further. If you take John Rambo, so Rambo 2, Rambo 3, First Blood, Rambo 4 even, and you put him in Mexico in the little cartels, that motherfucker should cause some serious fucking damage. Like serious fucking damage with the training he has, and he's Rambo. And I didn't think that the character in the picture as is caused enough damage. He got his ass kicked and all that stuff.
And he would have been murdered if the one cartel guy wasn't an idiot. That's what I don't like.
They didn't get in the way, yeah.
Like they all guns and he just shot him. So that my thing is putting Rambo in that position, I just don't like. And I think they're smart in that. I don't know why that happened.
When you really stop and take a look at it, and I know David Morrell, you know who David Morrell is. He's a Canadian gentleman who came up with the First Blood novel. Mm-hmm. He created John Rambo, and John Rambo, the name Rambo came from a brand of apples. And actually at the Rambo 5 stage, him and Stallone got together and wrote a script. They wrote a script together, a more soulful, that's the way they worded it, a more soulful Rambo, a more mature Rambo.
This version of this movie?
Before this movie. So it's not a version of this movie. So basically, started off with the Mexican cartel, then it went to white supremacists, then it went to like Predator, and then it went to David Morrell and Stallone doing their own thing, and then the studio, which at this point was Lionsgate, went back to we like the cartel, so they went back to that. But David Morrell and Stallone worked for a very long time on the script, which I would kill to read, by the way, because it was mature. So when Rambo Last Blood came out, David Morrell went in the press and basically said, when the scene where Rambo like drops that guy's head out of his truck, Morrell was like laughing his ass off, not because it was funny, because he was like, it's pathetic what they've done with my character. That's his opinion, whatever.
Okay, it's not fair.
I think Rambo Last Blood, extended cut, real cut, as is a very solid movie. There are missed opportunities because we're dealing with Rambo, and I think the movie sometimes forgets that we're dealing with John Rambo.
Yes.
John Rambo is going to show up in Mexico. He's not going to get ambushed and get his ass whooped by like, 50 dudes. He's going to be prepped for that. He's going to wind up taking them out one by one, like he did, in Rambo Part 2, when he has his Jason Voorhees moment and he takes everybody out one by one, But for me personally, it's a movie that grows on me every year. Every time I watch it, it grows on me. I think it's emotionally really strong. I feel John Rambo's plight. I feel his inner struggle. I feel him battling with his demons, popping pills and everything like that. His fucking basement is basically tunnels from Vietnam and everything like that. And when this cartel, fucks up a family member, and they basically give him carte blanche to unleash the beast he's been trying to put a lid on all this time. So by the time the last act in Rambo Last Blood kicks in, I'm not, a shrink, but I think John Rambo's happy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a reason now to take the lid off and let me go to town and, playing the Doors, nobody gets out alive. I think that's the name of the song. This is a stroke fucking genius. So and even the ending with, Rambo in the rocking chair, he's injured, whatever. And then the last shot is him riding into the sunset on a horse, like a Western. could be taken in two ways. He died and is going to heaven or hell, or he literally went out on a horse in the sunset. In case this one made a lot of money, we'll do Rambo 6. But I think personally for me, I hope it ends now. I think Rambo Last Blood is a way better ending to the franchise than most people give it credit for. And guys and dolls, if you're a Rambo fan like I am, give the extended cut, aka a real cut, another shot. For me, it closes the book in a really beautiful way.
It's not my movie. It needs to end with him fucking coming home and looking at the mailbox. I don't want to see anything after. I don't want an epilogue. But I was curious about your pitch, and so I wanted to hear it. So that's why I was curious about your pitch, because to me, my Rambo, and this is obviously subjective here, I like mine being a miserable that riverboats people like Siddhartha, that doesn't see the world as happy and doesn't say what. That's just more my thing.
I'll return the favor. Before we get into phone calls and our conclusion, what's your Rambo movie rating?
See, I have the same issue as you. Is 1 and 2 switch depending on my mood. 1 is a better movie. 2 is more fun. So it depends on my life. When I was a kid, 2, 100% was my favorite. High school, I got more into 1. I was like, oh, I kind of like the sad, miserable guy that just is getting pushed around and breaks. Then my 20s, I started smoking more pot. I was like, oh, I love number 2. 2's fun. We're blowing people up. This is good.
Two is like our version of Tarzan. That's the way I look at it. It's our Tarzan. It's like every generation has it. It's bright, it's lush, it's colorful. It's almost comic book like Rambo 2.
Yeah, it's great, but that's why I can't. But also, here's the thing, though. I love 4. I think 4 is my favorite version of John Rambo because I relate to that one the most.
Oh yeah, you would. He's cynical. He's down on life.
Oh, I'm not that. I wish I was that cool. Riverboating people making knives.
You're not cynical. Hey, fuck everybody, fuck everything. Yeah.
I bet it makes sense for him to be there. Everything he's seen, his piece is not happiness on a farm. His piece is the riverboat, just taking people back and forth. That's all you get in life. You live in a shack and you're going to die of a heart attack in your 60s, and that's all you get. That's John Rambo to me. And the fact that he goes home, though, I was like, okay, that's the only happiness I want from that guy. Which is, he might be happy, he might be not, but he's going to try.
What's up, guys? This is Nick. Called a while back, mentioned The Ugly, When Strangers Appear. Got a couple other ones for you. Maybe, you've seen them, maybe you haven't. Obviously, you've seen The Night Flyer, right? Like that Mark Pavia, fucking Miguel Ferrer owns. He's the asshole that we all want to be. Just smoking cigarettes, fucking rest in peace, Miguel. Maybe one you haven't seen, Canadian movie from '95, Blood and Donuts. It's another vampire flick. Just got, it's just a cool flick. It's kind of just one of those hidden gems. Holly Dale. It's got that dude from Prom Night 2, Justin Lewis. Cronenberg's in it. It's got an awesome song, Bloodletting from Concrete Blonde. That's a band you may know if you're an old man like me. And then one last one is HBO movie from '91 with Fred Ward, rest in peace. Cast a Deadly Spell. 40s, noir. All the characters have literary names like Bradbury, Lovecraft. It's a Lovecraftian movie. It's got cosmic monsters, and they did a sequel with Dennis Hopper called Witch Hunt. Not as good, but decent. Yeah, and they actually were directed by Martin Campbell and Paul Schrader. Cat Pupil, No Escape, Casino Royale. So those are just throwing some shit out there, man. Keep doing what you guys do. Fucking awesome. Long live the horror. Fuck yeah. All right.
Hey, man, I really always appreciate people calling in. I'm going to start by saying Miguel Ferrer, of course, the asshole for everything. RoboCop. I'm going to throw him Blake check. But no, I love The Night Flyer. I have the DVD, actually. I had never upgraded, but yeah, Stephen King. Me and my dad used to love all that shit back in the day. I watch anything, especially like this kind of stuff. And my dad's a big horror guy as well. So I want to say that he is the asshole we all want to be. And, rest in peace, man. I can't believe that guy went as early as he did. John, what's your thoughts on Night Flyer?
I'm a huge fan of Night Flyer, always have been. I saw it on VHS when it first came out. Mark Pavia, directed. Ferrer, who's Robert Rodriguez's cousin, if I remember correctly, right? Miguel Ferrer.
Is he? Oh, I never heard that.
Yeah.
That's sad, poor guy.
Yeah. So a fantastic character actor, like you said, RoboCop, and he's been in a bunch of shit.
Deep Star 6. I think he was in Deep Star 6, am I correct,
Yeah,
right?
he was in Deep Star shit, as I call it.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Sean Cunningham.
Yes,
Really great effects by Mark Shostrom.
I like deep sea horror. I think that's always a fun genre for me. So
yeah, Night Flyer is the fucking tits. I love that movie, and every time I watch it, I love it more. A lot like Rambo: Last Blood, to be honest. Just a movie that delivers more and more every time you see it. Blood and Donuts, I've heard of. It's a vampire thing, as you stipulated. If I remember correctly, I think it's a Canadian film, but I have never seen it.
No, it doesn't ring a bell to me.
And then you brought up
Cast a Deadly Spell. I've never seen it. The cover looks familiar, but I'm already immediately going to see it because there's 4 people I love: Fred Ward, David Warner, Clancy Brown, and Julianne Moore. And it looks like a noir detective, like smoking cigarettes. I'm already in. And Martin Campbell. So I will be downloading that ASAP.
Cool deal. Thanks for calling in, bro.
Hey guys, it's Russ from OKC again. Just watched the House episode. Totally on board with what you guys had to say about it. I would call it a comedy with horror elements. So I think we're all 3 in agreement about that. Fallon, you're wearing an Iron Maiden shirt. I don't know if anybody ever noticed this. It clicked with me that Big Ben as a zombie looked like Eddie Maiden in the 2 Minutes to Midnight poster. It always just, so I thought that was kind of odd. And Lance, as my old pipeline buddies would say, you ain't got a hair on your ass if you don't wear that fucking sweater at some point in a later video. Hey guys, love you, love your work. Take care, keep kicking ass.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. House is a comedy with horror elements, so we'll agree on that. And good call, actually. Good call. That I forgot his fucking name now, but
Big Ben.
Big Ben, is that it?
From House.
The guy that played Bull in Night Court. He looks a lot like Eddie on the 2 Minutes of Midnight Maiden poster. So really good call, man. I never noticed it before until you brought it up. So I appreciate that. And in terms of Lance, you see, guys and dolls, in case you haven't watched our House episode, which you should, House, put it in the search. The great William Catt wore, I don't even have words to describe it, the most epic V-neck, feminine yet masculine, because William Catt gets away with it. Most men would not. Beige V-neck, like forget about it. And Lance arrogantly proclaimed that he would find that V-neck and wear it on the Arrow and Head show.
And so, hold on. Are you going to finish? Because I have a feeling you're not going to tell the whole story. So I'm jumping in. Oh, so we're jumping timelines. I knew you'd do this. Last episode, as of this recording, last episode, I said I couldn't find it. My friend who was good at finding shit couldn't find it either. So if anybody in the comment section could send a link, I would buy it immediately.
You know what, Russ? If you could find the sweater and send this motherfucker a link, that'd be appreciated. If you cannot, which is fine, I'll find it. Rambo: Last Blood, not probably the ideal pick for beginning of October, but Lance and I are at the point where we kind of don't give a fuck. We're just gonna do what we feel like doing. So, are you a fan of the film? We're talking extended cut, aka real cut. You gun down the comments below. Let us know. Obviously, the phone number, we already pimped it out enough. Comments, suggestions, ball breaking, bring it to us. We love it. We can't get enough. God bless you guys and dolls. Thank you for all the support. And Lance, motherfucker, love you.